Hello everyone, welcome to the Litmus monthly community sync-up meeting. So this is Karthik, maintainer of the Litmus project. Great that you're all here. We'll just wait for a few more minutes. We'll just wait for a few more folks to trickle in, and then we'll get started with today's agenda. All right, I think we are a couple of minutes past. So let's get started. We have a few new members joining us today. We'll go through a quick round of introductions, followed by a quick community roundup, which Prithvi will be presenting. There have been quite a few events that the Litmus team has been participating in. So I think there are a few very interesting events coming up over the course of the next 1 month or so. And we are leading up to the 2.0 release as well. So there will be some time dedicated to discussing the upcoming features or the release activities. We'll also go over the release notes of 1.13.8 and 2.0 beta 9. And there will be a few interesting demos from the contributors on new features, some cool features that were added over the course of the last release. So we will go through the demos as well. Then we will have the floor open for questions. That's what we have for the agenda. And I see some new members that have joined. Some of them we know from Slack conversations, some of them that we've probably not met earlier. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourselves? What got you interested in Chaos and Litmus, etc.?
So hello everyone. I'm Lakshya Gupta. I'm a second-year computer science student from India, and I got to know about this project from a talk that I attended, Introduction to Chaos Engineering, and then I wrote a blog about it about the learnings, and I found the chaos engineering concepts very interesting. So yeah, I'm very excited to learn and contribute to the project.
Thanks, Lakshya. Welcome to the Litmus community. Hope you learn more about chaos and make contributions. Thanks for joining today's call. Who would like to go next? I think Rini is quite familiar to us.
Hi, Karthik. Hi, everyone. So I am working as a DevOps engineer in Anuta Networks. We are trying to implement this chaos in our resiliency UT test cases to stabilize our product more.
Awesome. Welcome, Rini. Happy to have you here. I think we will go over a couple of release items which might be of interest to you.
Yeah.
We have a few more folks. I think Niels Van Brecht, Barry, Stuti, would you like to go next?
I'm sorry, Prithvi, like, did you call my name or something?
Yep, I was just trying to take a look at the new entrance to the community. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi folks, this is Stuti this side, and I'm just a beginner in this CNCF community and with this Litmus community also. So I just got started with it at the chaos engineering live stream that Prithvi and Sayan did. So yeah, that's it about me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I see Derek and Michael from the Pravega community. Welcome, Michael and Derek. Great to have you here. I think with that, let's get started. Prithvi has some interesting updates on the community roundup section. Prithvi, would you like to share your updates?
Sure, Karthik, sure. I'll get started. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll quickly get started with my updates. Give me a second. So as part of the community roundup, I mean, there are a lot of updates, but I couldn't fit in all of them. So I think I'll just cover most of them. And the major was the release of 1.13.8 and the 2.0 beta 9 release just before the 2.0 GA comes live. So we had both the launches, and then we had our community members who held them. So shout out to all the community members who indirectly or directly took part in helping put out feature requests and helping put out these two releases in place. And then it also led to the further emphasis on documentation. The beta docs for 2.0 are already out there in the community. So I think I'll put it out there in the channel as well as on chat so that you can all join the GitHub discussion that is out there to focus more on the docs, or anything you want to talk about the docs is out there. And we also have our GSOD mentee Debo, who has been contributing to the doc side, and he has been posting his contributions regularly in the community. So that's been going good. And then with 2.0 releasing, I'll go to the release date next in a couple of slides. But with 2.0 coming up, there's a lot of activities that are going to happen in the CNCF space. I have listed down a few of them. One of them is the CNCF live stream, which is happening on the August 18th, and then the community members are also featuring on CNCF TV, LGTM, Spotlight Live, and hopefully Cloud Native Latina. Leonardo is another community member, and there are a lot of meetups happening which will be posted here and there on the Slack community, so stay tuned. I would just like to point to one of the blogs that was written by an external community member from Maverick Systems, where he emphasized upon why chaos engineering is important for your environment and why do you need it. And he has also focused on the tool set that they have used, and that is Litmus. So I'm just taking you through the blog. Perhaps the blog is opening up. So yes, as you can see that yes, you need this, and they have mentioned about Litmus and why they love Litmus and what is the reason behind it. So as you can see, obviously it's LitmusChaos, which is their favorite at Maverick Systems. Or shout out to Daniel, who's a DevOps engineer there, who has written this blog and emphasized upon the importance of chaos for the community. So moving back to the updates, as you can see, there were a couple of blogs from the community itself, which focused on how to run Litmus on GKE and AKS. Shout out to Akash and Nilanjan for curating these blogs, and the links are out in the community and you can check them out. But anyone who's trying to run Litmus on GKE or AKS can just check out these blogs and get started with Litmus easily. The community folks joined a lot of community events that are happening out there, and a few of them are DevOps India Summit pre-launch event. The Cloud Native Islamabad community has been really helpful, CNCF students, and there are a lot of videos which I'll be covering in the next slide. And I think we are glad to be collaborating with CubeSphere as well as Pravega. I think in the next meetup, hopefully you'll see our friends from Pravega presenting something out there, and we are looking forward to collaborate in the CNCF ecosystem. And similarly, Litmus is already up there on the CubeSphere App Store, so anyone who's using CubeSphere can get started with Litmus. Also, as you all know, there are Kubernetes chaos engineering meetups that are organized by the Litmus community folks itself on every last Saturday of the month. So there were a lot of folks, 80 plus folks, and a lot of questions were asked on 2.0 and what's the roadmap for Litmus. So if anyone wants to join that for demos or any questions other than related to the community, they can join that. And upcoming next Tuesday, we have Karthik, who will be joining David Mackay on Raw Code live session talking about hands-on with Litmus 2.0. So if you're interested, feel free to join in. The recording will be posted on Slack again. And lastly, the emphasis was on the student community as well, alongside all that has been happening in the community. And shout out to Kunal, who curated the CNCF students meetup, and I think a couple of folks have already joined in from there. So and shout out to the students for writing 4 external blogs. These are a few milestones that we reached: 1900 plus GitHub stars, 800 plus Slack members, and 1500 plus Twitter followers. Although they are just stats, but thank you to the community for helping with the same. So next up, these are the community videos that are out there. GitLab Cafe, everyone can contribute. Michael had it was an amazing session with Michael and co there, and it's a 2-hour recording. So if anyone has that much of time, they can go out and watch it. It talks about the difference between 1.x and 2.0 and how chaos engineering has come up and how Litmus is changing the overall scenario. And then Divya participating at KCD Bangalore. Introduction to LitmusChaos. A lot of people were asking what exactly Litmus is. So it's out on the Litmus channel. And then thanks to Sayan, who joined in the CNCF Switzerland meetup and talked about Litmus there. So without any further ado, this is the main slide, I think. So Litmus 2.0, as you all know, is releasing on the 15th of August. That's the date for the 2.0 launch. And I hope you all are excited for it. And it's going to be grand, of course, for the community. There are a lot of events happening in the community out there. The docs will be updated and a lot of blogs will be out there for information. So in any case, if you have any questions regarding 2.0 as of now, you can ask them in this community call itself. But come August 15th, I hope it's a celebration of chaos engineering between everyone in the community. So that's a quick community roundup from my end, and thank you everyone. In case anyone has any questions, I would like to take the same. All right, so I guess there are no questions. Perhaps I'll post some links in the chat. So thanks everyone. Karthik, perhaps you can take it forward.
Okay, thanks, Prithvi. Let me go ahead and share my screen. for the release updates. So we had 2 releases in the last month, 1.13.8 in the 1.x series, and 2.0 continues with its beta 9, and we are heading into GA, like Prithvi mentioned. So there are some notable features which are being solidified and documented at this point. And there's also a roadmap coming up for post 2.0 items that will be published soon. Some amount of planning and POCs were done over the course of the last month in preparation. So we'll sort of share that soon. Let me go over the individual release items, probably not all of them, but notable ones. One of the things that was a limitation in earlier Litmus releases was the pod CPU and memory hog experiments used an exec model. That is, we were trying to make use of utilities available within the base images of applications to cause the failures. I think that had a certain advantage in terms of not needing to run in privileged mode. But it also has some downsides. The amount of control that you can exercise over the fault, the stress process, as well as the ability to inject the resource chaos or stress chaos against base images that don't really offer a shell or are generally opaque. Most of the newer images are trending towards that, and we would still be able to go ahead and cause this resource exertion there that caused us to write a new version of these experiments for CPU hog and memory hog. So they make use of the stressng tool, and they are launched from external containers, which basically run processes to enter the PID namespace of the target containers and inject the fault. The stressng processes run there. So this is a notable improvement. I'm sure a lot of folks who wanted this feature can now try this out. We've started supporting multi-arc images for the chaos scheduler, and there is an update on the 2.0 side as well around the multi-arc images. Now the Litmus 2.0 control plane as well as execution plane, all the chaos agents support both ARM64 as well as MD64 architectures. So if you are running it for edge use cases or started moving towards Graviton instances on AWS or are gently running it on packet with MD64 processors, you will still be able to leverage these images on those clusters as well. The other improvement that we're trying to make is enable folks from the Python community to contribute experiments. Most of the LitmusChaos libraries are in Golang. And we also wanted to provide folks in the Python world to be able to contribute experiments in an easy way. So the Litmus SDK, which was available for Go, has now been written for Python as well. So you will be able to bootstrap a chaos experiment, a standard chaos, LitmusChaos experiment, which consists of the pre-chaos, chaos injection, and post-chaos steps in Python as well. There are a couple of experiments there that give you an example or a layout of how Litmus experiments in Python would look. You can create newer experiments in a similar model by leveraging the SDK. Creates this scaffolding with all the files that you can go fill business logic into. So we're trying to improve the Python side of the story, and we got started this release, and it is expected to improve as we go along. There were some new experiments added for Azure as well as GCP. So this improves upon or follows from the last release, and it's a focused effort in being able to provide chaos experiments for non-Kubernetes entities. So while Litmus has enough experiments in the generic suite to launch different kinds of faults against pods or microservices or even Kubernetes nodes, things like drain and causing taints and everything, all pods in a node, restarts, etc. We still wanted to be able to use the same control plane and create experiments with a similar flow to also be able to target cloud instances or disks or other managed services on specific cloud providers. So we got started first with AWS. As you might already know, we have the ability to do EC2 failures and EBS failures. We've extended that to GCP and Azure. However, these experiments are in the master branch. They have not been brought into a version release on the Chaos Hub. But this was a significant effort that we spent time on over the last month or so. And if you would like to try out these experiments, you could still do that with the CI tag. The charts for them are available. By charts, we mean the experiment YAML and the sample chaos engine YAMLs for these. So feel free to take a look at them. There were some important bug fixes, something that's an ongoing process. There's further enhancements and bug fixes that we're working on before we hit 2.0. Some of the important ones among them are in the scheduler. So thanks to Renee for all the efforts in trying out the scheduler and using it in reporting different issues. So we had a problem that inhibited the launch of the fault until the first interval period was elapsed. So that has been fixed. You will be able to launch chaos and immediately upon the creation of a chaos schedule before the first interval is reached. So that's an improvement. There were also hard-coded reconcile time or intervals for the scheduler, which did not take into consideration the chaos interval specified in the schedule that led to flooding the logs with reconcile actions which did not basically do much. So we've improved on that and tried to remove it and ensure that you have a cleaner history out in the scheduler controller. And we fixed some boundary conditions wherein you might have specified a start time in your chaos schedule CR that has already elapsed when you apply the CR. And then your intervals might actually go beyond the end timestamp specified. So how do you basically break in between? So to summarize, there have been some improvements made in the operation of the scheduler. There are some more issues that we've identified in our queue, especially around managing more complex steady-state validations within the schedule, as well as handling other corner cases. There were some incorrect keys used in some experiments, environment variables in pod DNS experiments, which were actually shown on the chart, but were not maintained within the code. So those have been fixed. There was a regression from 1.13.6 where applications that were targeted for chaos did not need to be annotated. So if you want specific workloads to be targeted for chaos, parent workloads, stateful sets, daemon sets, or deployments, you would need to annotate them for chaos and have the spec.annotation checked to true within the chaos engine. But if you just wanted to randomly pick pods and do chaos against them by just the label identifier, then you did not need the deployment to be labeled. You did not need that to be annotated. That was the behavior until 1.13.6, but there was some changes which sort of violated that principle. And we needed labels on the parents as well, even if we were just targeting pods randomly. So that has been reversed, or the fix has been made. So we go back to the original flow with 1.13.8. There is a limitation in 1.13.8 with respect to the chaos operator. If you're running the chaos operator in namespace mode, then you might probably need a manual action following an abort process, abort done either via engine deletion or via patch to stop. So this is because of a new rule added within the cluster role, rather the role for the operator. So that's something that we are working on fixing or enhancing. So that is going to come about in the next release. So as far as 2.0 goes, there were some useful fixes on the UI. There were issues where you would go ahead and tune certain aspects within your workflow, a hand-created workflow, and then you would load it and tune once again in the portal. So you already have a workflow manifest that you're loading onto your, importing onto your portal, and then you go ahead and tune certain things in the UI using the wizard, but not all changes would get reflected when you ultimately ran the workflow. So those kind of issues have been fixed. We started support for multi-arc Docker images for all the components, both Litmus as well as the third-party components, such as the Argo workflow controllers, etc. There were some improvements made to the E2E pipeline. We have a dedicated E2E suite now for the portal. We just had it for the experiments before. We have it for the portal as well, and that is increasing in content. Newer E2E tests are being added. So that gives us better opportunity to test resilience of the platform, of the Litmus platform itself before we release. There is a new feature added where you can select the environment variables, or you can add newer environment variables to an experiment manifest when you select it in the portal wizard. So we will have a couple of demos to show you the enhancements made or the fixes made on the UI, whatever I just talked about. And we will also have a quick demonstration on the new tech preview experiments to do chaos against Azure and I think GCP. So these are mostly the release items, things that we got done. There is a significant effort going on around documentation. So you might have noticed that there's a doc sprint that has started in Litmus. We have sort of thrashed out the structure of the documentation in consultation with folks in the community. You will have usage and architecture documentation being placed, as well as examples for the various ways in which you can, or various tunables for the different experiments. So all that information is being put into the beta docs. So there is a beta docs repository that we have in place to put all our changes. It's more of a staging repo before we take it into the production docs. So if you have any requirements or any documents that you would like to see, any information that you would like to see, which is not already present, please feel free to raise an issue. There are a lot of discussion threads on Slack, some of which you might be involved in. So we might have talked about a lot of workarounds, a lot of concepts within these Slack threads. Feel free to tag them on the issue that you're creating here. It makes it easier for the contributors. If you're interested in contributing docs by yourself for any area, then feel free to do that as well. So I think that's all I had to share in terms of progress made over the last month. I think with that, I'll stop sharing, and we can get Udit and Amit and other folks to do some cool demos on the improvements made.
Thank you, Karthik. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll probably share my screen and share some of the updates. I hope my screen is visible.
It is, Amit.
Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Amit Kumar Das and I'm a contributor to LitmusChaos. So in this demo, I'll be going through some of the new features or changes or upgrades that we have added with the 2.0 beta 9 update. So starting off, let's start with the first step of workflow creation. So in the workflow creation step, we have some of the new enhancements and additions as well. So I hope that this screen is pretty familiar to all of you. Like this is the first step of workflow creations. So here we have some options, and in the predefined experiments, like we have one of the additions, which is the bank of anthos workflow. So previously we had the sock shop and the potato head, but now we also support the bank of anthos workflow. And we have the other options just like previously. So for the demo, I'll be going with the My Hub option. So I have the default hub connected with me. So I'll just select this and leave these all to the default values. And I'll try to add one of the experiments. So I'll just click the Add New Experiment button. And this list is the number of experiments which are present in my Chaos Hub. So for this demo, I'll use the generic pod delete. And so I can see that the pod delete experiment has been added in my workflow. So I want to tune this workflow. So what I can do is I can click on this experiment name, and I can see a vertical stepper in front of me. So here I can tune my workflow and the Chaos engine basically. So earlier we can see that we had only 3 steps: the general, the target application, where we can select the Kubernetes object or the labels, different kinds, and selecting the steady state applications or adding the probes. But now we have also introduced the tune experiment option, where you can update the environment variables of the Chaos engine. So I'll just go step by step. I'll just go back. So in the steady state of application, which is basically addition of the probes, we have also we have upgraded the UI a little bit. So we can see that instead of a modal, which was coming earlier, a drawer with a cool animation is now coming from the left side, and we can see different types of parameters here. So let me show some of the changes that we have made. So let me select the CMD Pro. So we can see like we have, earlier we didn't had any drop downs or anything available. The user had to add everything manually. So we have actually made it pretty dynamic. So if I select a string option in the comparator, so I can see the criteria to be strings like equal, not equal, contains. And if I change it to int, then we can see all the criteria as like greater than or equal to, less than equal to, and similar with the float case. Yeah, so like these are the things which we have made dynamic. And if I change to Kubernetes Pro, so like if I create some resources, I will be allowed to give the data. And if I want to delete some resources, so we can see the field selectors and the label selector labels are now available. These are not available in the create section. We can see only 4 options are there. So like these are the small changes we have added with the probes section. And now I'll just go back and select next. So we can see like we have an option to tune the experiment. So here we can tune the environment variables of the experiment. So like these are the parameters that we can adjust according to our use cases. And now you can also add some additional tunables. So like the current workflow is the pod delete one. So if I want to add some of the additional key value pairs, what I can do is I can go to the docs section, and I can see in the docs like we have some supported experiment tunables. So currently in my manifest there are only 4 of them, the total chaos duration, the chaos interval, force, and pod affected percentage. So, and in the documentation, we can see, like, you can see a lot of environment variables are present. So what I can do is, like, I can select one of them and add it over here with the appropriate value which is given here. Like we can, it supports true and false. So I can give it true, and I can click this add a key value pair, and I'll save this. And when I try to edit this YAML or view the YAML manifest, workflow manifest, I can see that these changes are also getting reflected here. So we just added the randomness key and the value as true. So these are also getting reflected here. So like these are some of the minor changes that we have added in the workflow creation steps. And like these steps are pretty similar, like the older versions. And I'll just go and finish this off. Yeah. And in the browse workflow sections, we have made some upgrades or enhancements. So first of all, like there were some issues with the status, like it was showing failed or running for randomly, but we have upgraded it now as well. So we can click on the experiment name, and we can see a proper Argo graph of this overall workflow with all the logs. And if it's a chaos engine, then we can also see the chaos results. And one of the features that we have added is like we can download the logs as well. So I can click the download button and it can show me the logs as well. I'll just close this. So so I can just show you the running experiments. So like these are all live. These are live with the Kubernetes. Like we fetch all the resources and its states and show it live here. And we have made some changes in the analytics section as well. So in the basic analytics, we have upgraded it in a good way. Like earlier, we just had one graph, and now we have all the details here, like the name, what's the ID, and the subject, the namespace where the workflow has executed, the agent where the workflow has ran, like it was the self agent, and how many total runs are there, and what was the last run. And if I click the show statistics, I can see a few graphs here. So like these are some of the graphs. Like I had only one experiments, that's why it's giving one. So if we have a couple of experiments like pod delete or pod network chaos or memory hog, then we get all the details in these graphs as well. So we can see like the one experiment has passed, and the resilience score is 100% since all my experiments are passed in this case. And there's also a bar graph which shows me what's the pass versus fail percentage. So like these were some of the changes in the analytics. And moving on to the chaos hub section, we have also modified this a little bit to make the UI better and the user experience better. So instead of a modal, now we also have the drawer here, where the user can add connect to a particular MyHub, his or her MyHub, with two options, the public way or a private way. With the private, he has the ability to connect it with access token or SSH login. So I'll just go back and click on the hub. So in the hub section, we have made some changes with related to the charts, the display of the charts. So earlier we didn't have this predefined workflow section. We just had all the basic chaos charts which are present in the repository. So like the user can view it accordingly and group it accordingly. If I click AWS SSM, it shows me all the AWS SSM experiments. Similarly, if I want to sort it according to generic experiments, I can click generic, and all the generic experiments are present. And similarly, we have the predefined workflows as well. So currently, we have introduced one of the new workflows, which is the Bank of Anthos. And similarly, we had the Potato Head and Sock Shop workflows just like previously. So these were the changes which are made in the MyHub section. So like for the predefined and the chaos charts. And I'll go back, and in the analytics section, we have also made some new changes and some major upgrades. So like we can see the number of workflows which are present here. There are a total of 2 runs, as we can see here. There are a total of 2 runs, and the total workflow run stats are like 1 is completed and 1 of the experiment is actually running. So these are the overall stats here. and you can actually connect to Prometheus and Grafana to view at the actual metrics as well. So moving on to the settings side, we have introduced some of the important changes here. If you want to change the name of the project, you can simply change it over here. Like I want to give it a test project. It should be changed. We can see it has updated over here as well. And in the user management section, we have introduced a new option to activate and deactivate a user. So you can just go to the user management table, and if you are an admin, you have this privilege to activate or deactivate a user. So previously this user was, the test user was deactivated. Now I have activated him. And with the image registry changes, we can now actually use different image registries, which can be either public or it can be even private. And we have also added a usage statistics page. So in this page, it actually gives us all the data of the portal, like the total number of users, the projects, the agents, the total number of experiments runs, the total number of workflow schedules. And in this project statistic table, we get all the details from the projects, like who is the owner of the project and how many agents are connected, and what are the total number of workflow schedules runs, and similarly how many team members are there. So there was one test member which was in my team, so the number of team member is 1 here. And so like we also get the agent details, like how many of our cluster scope and how many of them are namespace scope. And we can also sort it accordingly, like if I want to view it from the last month, I can just select, and you can see 0, like we don't have any workflow runs in that time period. So like this was one of the required features, so we have added it as well. So like I think I've covered most of the new enhancement and features that we have added. And with the beta 9, we have focused more on the modularization and optimization. So you can try it out, and surely let us know if you want any further improvements.
Just a note on upgrades from beta 8 to beta 9. If you've already been using it, then you might have to do fresh installation because of a DB schema change. That would not be required for beta 9 to the next 2.0 version. Raj, would you like to pitch in on any improvements to the Litmus CTL?
Yeah, hi Karthik. Yes, I can show a demo.
Sure, I'll stop sharing my screen. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Amit.
Let me share my screen. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
So hi everyone. So we released Litmus CTL 0.3.0 with 2.0 beta 9. So we totally changed the flow of Litmus CTL. It is now totally different from the previous version. If you are using previous version, it will also work with the new beta 9. But if you want to use the new Litmus CTL, you can download from here. We also support for the previous version, and from 2.0 will support 3.0. So the basic the main changes were the flow of the commands. So you can view this page. It's a user manual for Litmus CTL. Basically, what we did is we created a Litmus config file, just like kubectl. If you are using kubectl, the flow will be similar to kubectl. So we created a Litmus config where we manage all the authentication related data. So you don't have to authenticate every time to just create an agent and uh, to do the other commands. So the Litmus CTL is the main guy. So the Litmus config is the main file where you can store all the configuration. So I'll show you how Litmus config looks like later in this demo. So basically, so these are the minimal step to create an agent. So I have a Litmus portal installed in my system. So I'll connect my Minikube. It's a Minikube cluster. So with this portal, So the first step is you have to authenticate the data. So litmus-ctl config set account will configure your endpoint, your username and password, and it will store in the litmus config file. So let me copy this command. I will fill up the detail. So my password is litmus. So it got configured. So if you don't want to show your password in the CLI, you can use the interactive mode. If you don't pass the password, it will ask you the password in a secure manner. So you can also type in here and I can configure it. Yeah. So you can see the configuration by a command called litmus-config-view. So here we have the uh, we store all the account details. Just now I added this admin data, so it is currently here, and you can manage multiple Litmus portal accounts within your system using litmus-ctl. So we configured our account. So let me create an agent first. So agent creation, we just have to pass few flags. Let me copy this command. So here I am passing the agent name. So I have to name my agent. Let's suppose a new agent. Okay. So there are some flags. If you don't pass, it will use some default values. We have mentioned in this table. So there are some compulsory flag you have to pass, and there are some like not important flags you don't have to pass. But make sure to pass every important files. Right now I have one agent installed in my Litmus namespace. I can show you. So that's why I can't install the new agent in the same namespace. So I'll use a different namespace. To use a different namespace, you can pass a flag called agent. You can pass a flag called namespace, and let's say the new name is new MSW. So it's a non-interactive mode. So it will the UI. So the Litmus CTL will not ask you the details. So it's a flag-based mode. So okay, we have to pass the project ID also. To get the project ID, you have to type litmus-ctl get projects. So project ID is required here because I already created an agent. So if you don't have any project ID and you apply the same command, it will create a random project for you. But in this case, I already have one project. That's why you have to pass the project ID. So I'll pass the project ID. So we'll make this a little bit bigger. So I'll pass the project ID.
Just to add some context for folks who might not have used Litmus-ctl, this is a CLI tool which helps to connect or register remote clusters with the portal so that you can do chaos against applications residing on that cluster from the same portal.
Yeah, thank you, Karthik. As I already mentioned, like this will install an agent in this project, and I can verify this by going to the portal. So you can see a new agent has been registered, and the project ID is same 6C1D. So you can see the list of project. I already mentioned the command. So using get project, and if you want to see the agent list within the project, you can type agent get agents, and you have to pass the project ID flag. So it will show you all the agent within your project. So right now it is in inactive mode. So right now it is active. So I'll refresh it and you can see it's active. So I can schedule workflow after that. And few more commands we have added, like you can create project. You can't create project from your Litmus portal, but using litmus-ctl you can create multiple projects uh, within the user. So I'll go ahead and create a project. So project creation is pretty much simple. It is just a single command, and you have to pass a flag called project name, and let's say it's a demo project. fact is, so if I go ahead and see the list of project, you can see I created a new project, and you can see the same changes here. I need to refresh. So you can see I have created a demo project, so you can switch between the projects. So yeah, that's all. And few other commands, like you can reconfigure your accounts. Right now, if you want to see what are the accounts within my Litmus CTL, so you can use this command. Just like kubectl, you can switch between your clusters. So same Litmus CTL, you can switch between the accounts. So currently, I'm using this account.
Great.
And
I think that's a pretty good overview of the Litmus CTL capabilities and improvements over the last release. Thanks, Raj. I think that was, I think we are short on time. There's one very quick demo I think we might want to give on the new experiment. Before that, there's a question by Niels. That's a great question. I think the Litmus portal by itself doesn't use too much resources. There is the control plane and the agent infra. The control plane consists of just the MongoDB, the web UI, and the GraphQL server. The MongoDB uses by default, I suppose it uses around 20 GB is what is there in the Helm chart, but you can reduce it to much less. You can keep it at 5 or even lesser, depending upon how many workflows you're going to run and how many agents you're going to connect. And there is a section which in the beta docs that talks about the resources that are needed to run the control plane, which I have just shared on the Zoom chat, Niels. So you might not need to dedicate an entire cluster for just running the Litmus portal control plane. You can just probably dedicate less resources and have this running in a Litmus namespace while you still run your other applications in the cluster. An alternative approach would be to continue using Litmus the way it is being used in the 1.x. It's completely backward compatible. That is, you would just use the LitmusChaos operator to orchestrate chaos, and then you create the chaos engines by hand instead of the portal on your cluster. This would need the operator to be installed on all the different clusters where you have the requirement for chaos. So that would still work. So you can follow the older documentation for that. We will be sort of amalgamating this in our new 2.0 docs and provide the details, but you can get started with chaos. In case you're not interested in running the portal, you could still run the chaos operator directly and create your chaos resources. But this would need the operator to be launched on the individual clusters. Whereas with the portal, the registration process takes care of running it for you. That's the difference. Think that was good. Udit, would you like to just show very quickly launching chaos against Azure, or is it GCP? Sorry.
Sure, Karthik. Yeah, I would like to show it for Azure, Karthik.
Sure, please go ahead. Thank you.
Hopefully my screen is visible to all. Okay, so hello everyone, I am Udit. I will be showing you a quick execution of Azure instance stock experiment, which you must have seen in the previous sections, that these are added in a tech preview mode. And for that, I will be using Litmus portal, and I am also having a Azure CLI handy, and I have created a demo VM here, which is running right now. With this experiment, I will be shutting this VM for a certain chaos duration, and I will bring so the experiment will bring it back automatically after the chaos duration completes. So we'll just start with this. So I will schedule a workflow for reducing the chaos, and I will select it from my local system. I have uploaded the workflow YAML. I'll quickly go to the next steps. I will move with the default ones, and I will just check out the YAML of the experiment. So this is the experiment CR, and since this is in a tech preview mode right now, it is with CI tags. Once we have a next release, it will be with that tag, and these are the other envs which is required to provide as an input for the experiment. So we give the VM name. The name of the VM is VM demo, and a resource group which has created this VM, like demo RG in this case, and the duration and interval to which you want to run the experiment. You can give the multiple VM also as a comma separated variable. So this is all set. Now we can go for the next step. Here I will move with all defaults. I will schedule it now. So once I finish the workflow, the experiments will start installing in my cluster, and we'll move to this console, is Azure console, to visualize the chaos injection once the experiment gets installed completely. This console contains some of the information about the VM, like the status, zone, images, and all the other information. So this will be helpful in case, so the green tick means the experiment is installed. Now the chaos injection has started. So meanwhile, I will refresh this console to get the latest information. So you can see the status is getting stopping, and finally it will get in stop state for the so it getting stopped state for the given duration. So this will help you to know how your application and your processes running on the VM behaves when it is powered on off for some duration. So our expectation is that, like, you can add your checks how your processes are behaving using probes in it. So it is just a simple execution right now, and also it is in tech preview mode, so you can't use it with the tags right now. So either you can upload the workflow YAML, or you have to add an external hub with the chaos chart master. The master will have the manifest for the experiment. You can just take the URL and you can add in GitHub. Here I can give some name, and with the master branch. So this will create, this will add the external hub, and you will have the experiment here, so you can use it from this. And so here you can see there's your experiment came. So you can use it from here, or you can just prepare a workflow YAML like me and upload it. So once the 30 seconds of chaos interval is completed, the status will be back to running, and the portal will perform some post chaos check over the instance and get to its verdict. This is all about the very quick introduction to the Azure platform with Litmus, with the Azure instance system. There are a couple of experiments going to be added continuously in Azure and GCP. So yeah, do try it out and let us know your feedback. So this all green means the experiment is succeeded. Yeah. So that's all for this demo. Any questions I would like to take?
Cool. I think that was really quick, and thanks for showing the steps to add the experiments or showing how you can access experiments from the master branch by adding the chaos hub with the appropriate branch. I think that helps people who want to get started with the tech preview experiments. So I think we've covered our agenda items. I saw a couple of folks joining in as we went through the call. Bala Ramanathan has joined us. Would you like to introduce yourself, Bala, and talk about your use cases with Litmus before we sign off?
Yeah, thank you, Karthik. Hello, team. So my name is Bala. I work for Accenture. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Bala, you're audible.
Yeah. So we have been working with Litmus, and we have been using Litmus in production environment since 3 months. I think it's great using Litmus because we have gone through so many tools in the market, but we see Litmus is very useful tool across all available tools in the open source market. So that's why I'm more interested to learn more about Litmus, and I would like to see more experiments. Actually, I joined the
Awesome. That's great. Thanks for the feedback, Bala. Looking forward to work with you further and collaborate on the experiments. Feel free to reach out to us for what kind of faults you're looking for. You can create an issue on GitHub. We'll
Sure, Karthik.
prioritize that as part of the roadmap. I think with that, we are on time. We just a minute past, but I think we've finished all our agenda items for today. Thanks everyone for joining the community sync up. I hope some of the improvements made over the last month help you. If you have some questions or if you want any other issues addressed or requirements addressed, please feel free to reach out to us on Slack, and have a great rest of the month. We will meet you next month with more updates and more details on what we've been able to accomplish as a community. So yeah, have a great month ahead and bye.